Good morning. Are we on, Mark? Good morning. We're thankful that you're here with us this morning. Still got a few people coming in. I waited until Southside time to start, which is 5 minutes after, right? Is that accurate? We're very thankful to have Jerry and Paula Bates with us this morning. They, of course, have been supported here at Southside for I don't even know how many years. Good long while. So most of you are very familiar with them. They work with World Evangelism, and he's going to talk to us more about that during class, and then he'll be bringing our sermon to us during the worship hour. But if you would, let's if you'll join me in prayer, and we'll pray for Jerry and Paula and for their work. Father, I thank you so much for today. Father, we thank you for the sunshine, for this period of the year when the weather is so beautiful and it's easy to be outdoors. Thank you for your creation. We thank you for your power. Lord, we know that you have people all over the world. We know that you love people everywhere, and that everything that you do is to bring people to you. I thank you for the work that Jerry and Paula and those that they work with, that they do to bring the news of your Son to places where it hasn't been yet, or to where it needs to be encouraged. I pray that you'll help us to see you in what he presents this morning, and I pray that you'll bless those that he's working with. We thank you for their service and for their lifetime of faith, and we ask all this in Christ's name. Amen.
Good morning. It is good to be able to be here with you again. Y'all have been working with World Evangelism for a long time. Y'all were helping actually with the work before we ever started with them, which was back in 2007. So it's been going on a long time. We certainly appreciate your faithful support and everything. Our work is continuing to go very well. We've been very busy, continuing to be very busy. We got back about a month ago from our last trip to Tanzania and to Kenya. We'll mention more about that later. And God willing, we'll be going in August to Vietnam, to Philippines, and then last week would be in Nepal. That would be in August. That's our next trip. But our work is continuing to be, let's see if I can. Our work, this slide here kind of summarizes what our work really is all about. We focus, of course, on mass evangelism. By mass media or mass evangelism, we're talking about mainly TV and radio programs. With the TV and radio program, they generate a lot of contacts, and that's where the literature comes in, because without the literature, you'd have no way to follow up on the contacts you get from the TV and radio. Because they may have too many contacts, and then many times the contacts are, of course, a long distance away. And so there's no way to them personally to follow up on every single contact. So they use the literature to send out to the people, and then of course they can further contact those who have expressed some interest in learning more about the gospel. And of course the result would be several hundred baptisms every year as a result of that. Most of our work, or at least a lot of our work, is continuing to be in India. Right now we have 32 weekly TV programs in India. Many of these are considered to be local programs, but remember, India is the world's largest country as far as population is concerned. And so even a local program still covers several million people. So it's hard for us to even wrap our minds around many times the number of people that is there in India. But these are the ones speaking in the various languages and so forth, and these programs continue to bring good results. And these TV programs really are one of the only ways to evangelize there in India, because as you may remember, India right now is a very anti-Christian culture, and so it's becoming almost impossible to openly evangelize there in India. But the TV programs continue to go directly into the homes of the people you're trying to reach. In addition, we also have some TV and radio programs in other places. We have one weekly radio program there in Zimbabwe. There's the man who speaks on that particular program. He also does a lot of literature work for us, and we'll mention that more about that a little bit later. We now have 2 radio programs in the Philippines. This is one of them. Those 2 men there kind of work together, kind of a dialogue or discussion type of thing. And this radio program is in an area which is really a difficult area. They moved there about 4 or 5 years ago to start a brand new congregation. And the congregation is going, but it's some slow work. They said about 95% of the people in that island is Catholic, so it's just seemed to be a very slow work, but they're getting good contacts from that program anyway. They even said that the radio station said their program is one of the more popular religious programs, so it seemed to be doing pretty good. This is the other radio program that we have. This program began in January of this year, and what you see there is a brand new congregation that was started as a result of the radio program. I think they said the picture you're seeing is the second Sunday that they've had their worship service. So you see that a good start to work with there. Notice the song books. If I can get notice the song books there in that table. Those are some. We send 2 big boxes of literature to the Philippines, different places twice a year. And included in that would be the Voice of Truth, some song books, various other study books, whatever we got. And so those were some books, were some of the books that we sent to them earlier last year. So it's good to see being put into use there. We're also planning to start another radio program later this year. His uncle lives in a completely different island. And so when we go there this next time, we're going to be meeting his uncle and hopefully starting a brand new radio program, a completely different area. We're looking forward to doing that. We also then have 3 radio programs there in Uganda. This is on the western side of the country, kind of up in a mountainous area, and they get several baptisms every month as a result of that. And so they usually send us a picture. So there's a couple of pictures that they send us of them there. Well, then in India, of course, we continue to work with the medical camps. One of our TV speakers came up with the idea of the medical camps. His son, there in the white shirt, is the doctor, and his wife is also a doctor, so it fits right into their expertise. And so by doing this, you can go out in community with no problems, because the government looks upon this as social work. If you want to do social work, you can do as much as you want. And so they make the contacts, and of course then privately they go back and teach them the gospel. And so the result is several contacts every time and several baptisms every month as a result of it. They do 2 medical camps every month in different places. And so far they've baptized well over 250 people and had a total of about 70 or 72 different medical camps in different places. And of course, the blind work continues to go well. The couple you see standing up right there, that's Shane and Emily Fisher. They work with us, and they'll be going to India in probably about mid-September or so. This is a blind camp that they met with last year when they were there. And of course, you see the literature that people are holding up. Again, we have the Seeker's Bible course and the Voice of Truth in Braille, and they love getting that Braille literature. There's one of the men there got into books, and he's already starting to read it here. It's always amazing to me they can make sense of dots on a page, but they love getting that literature like that. The same one who works with the blind people also works with what he calls the JC School of Evangelism. This is not a school of preaching, but it's a program designed to encourage individual Christians to become more involved in evangelism, primarily through the use of literature. He's a great encourager in getting people to use literature. He said that's something everybody can do, and everybody can at least give a tract to someone. And so he encourages everybody to do that, and you see literally thousands of tracts and Bible lessons distributed. 14 baptisms altogether by this group while they were working together. It's an 18-month program. They'll generally meet 1 weekend a month. And so he's always, every weekend, he's traveling somewhere, different places. So it's a great result of that. And the good part is, once they get started doing it, they don't quit. Even though the program might end, they'll continue to do the personal work and continue to bring the results and everything. The Voice of Truth, of course, is one of our main works. Counting what we translate in print in other languages, We estimate we print around 50,000 copies every quarter, going to many different countries around the world. What you see there, I think, is some people there in Zimbabwe getting the voice of truth. We print it in English in Nigeria, Ghana, and Zimbabwe. And of course, we also print it in 4 different Indian languages, and it's also translated into Swahili there in Tanzania. So we get it in several different places around the world. We also ship literature when we can, mainly to the Caribbean islands and the Philippines. Those are about the only places that you can still ship fairly reasonably. Everything has gotten so expensive nowadays that we basically had to stop our shipping to most every place in the world. But we are able to still ship to the Philippines and the Caribbean islands. There's a company in Nashville, Tennessee, that ships to the Caribbean islands fairly reasonably. And so we do that twice a year. That's Shane and Emily working with us there in January. This year, we fixed up 5 boxes going to 5 different places there in the Caribbean islands. And so they love getting that literature, mainly the voice of truth and other things that we might have there. We also, like I said, we also print literature in Tanzania. With the voice of truth is translated there. These are the 2 men that work together in doing the translation of the literature there. They also print some books in English because there's a lot of English spoken in that area. But not only do they print books in English and Swahili and distribute there in Tanzania, but it also goes to all their neighboring countries as well. So they get a lot of literature distributed all around that particular area of Africa. We appreciate so much their work together with us. And to notice that man there holding up the laptop there, he was, when we met with them this time, like I said, we just got back from Tanzania about a month ago. And when we were talking with him, said, I do a lot of traveling, and when I'm traveling, all I can do in the translation, just write it down. Then, of course, somebody has to type it again. And so I really need a laptop. And so we gave him my laptop I had with me there. And so hopefully that'll help him out a great deal. This is the Church of the Bible that you see pictured here. Some people know it as simply the little orange book. It's by far the most popular book that we've ever printed. On the left-hand side is just some of the languages that book has been translated into. We've lost track of how many total languages, also how many books in English being printed for that matter. But we have a story which shows the value of just one piece of literature. This was in Tanzania last year. There was a nominational pastor over 3 districts. Somehow he came in contact with a little book, Church of the Bible. And he studied that little book and made such an impression on him that he later contacted someone else, did some more study, and was eventually baptized into Christ. And so in my estimation, the chances of him just sitting down and studying the Bible with someone would be pretty slim, because after all, he considers himself to be the teacher. He's not the student, he's the teacher. But yet he would read a book. And so it just showed the value of one little book. You never know what one little book might do. Many times I think we have underestimated the importance of literature. We think no one reads anymore. And if they'll read a book, they'll talk to me. Well, that's not necessarily true. Many people in the meantime will read a book where they would not necessarily talk to you. Of course, obviously, you still at some point have to have the one-on-one contact. But many times literature will bring people to the point where they are willing to listen there. In many of the places we go, we also teach in some of the Bear Valley Extension schools. As of beginning of this year, they had 74 schools in about 30 different countries. And all those schools together baptized over 4,200 people last year. And that, again, remember, most of the time these students are sitting in class. They're not actually outside working. So we just showed the great good that's being done by these schools in so many different places there. Oh, there's one Bible school there in Uganda that we work particularly very closely with. Now that we actually have 2 Bible schools there we work with. One of the Bible schools is not associated with Bear Valley, but it's on the western side of the country, around Fort Portal there, the same area where the radio programs are being broadcast from. But the other Bear Valley school is on the south side. down to the very bottom part. And I was there in February of this year teaching for a week at the Bible school. They had a graduation last year, and so this is a brand new class. They've only been there like a couple of weeks when I was there. But this is what the school did last year. You show they baptized 72 people, and again, most of the time the students are sitting in class. So it shows a great good being done by the schools here. Looking forward to being able to go back there again and see the great progress, hopefully be a great progress that the students make while they are in school there. We also go to Ghana. I'll be planning on going to Ghana in November of this year. I'll be teaching for 2 weeks in the School of Preaching, and while I'm there, I also get involved in some leadership seminars. The purpose of these seminars is to encourage congregation to begin appointing elders. There's a lot of congregations in Ghana, but very few have elders. But they know that's what God's plan is, and so we're trying to encourage the congregation to at least begin working towards the appointing of elders. This is one of the seminars we had last time. They had about a little over 100 people there from about 20 different congregations, and that's pretty much the average number. Anywhere from 100 to 150 people from 20 to 25 different congregations. That's pretty much the usual number. One time we did have about 500 people. That's highly unusual, but sometimes we do have a few more than that. But this is my class here. These are all preachers, of course, and they will travel there 2 times a year, to 2 weeks at a time, working on their advanced master's degree. The two men right in the center there, they're actually from Nigeria. Of course, they would travel by bus about 2 days in order to get there, so they make a great effort to come there for the studies. Like I said, we also are planning on going to Vietnam and the Philippines there in August. They're fairly close together, so it's easy to travel from one place to the other. Vietnam is a communist country, so you will not see a lot of religious expression there in that country. What you do see is primarily Buddhist. And so you will see many Buddhist temples, such as the one you see here. Very beautiful buildings, as far as that is concerned. We also go to Myanmar, at least we used to, before the coup that happened there several years ago. But in that country, it's a very poor country, but you'll see some absolutely beautiful Buddhist temples covered with gold and everything. So it's always sad to see such beautiful temples and money sent by the people themselves, even though the people are very poor, and yet they're building such beautiful temples to basically nothing. And so it's a sad situation there. But now this man we don't have anything to do with. He actually used that motorcycle as a taxi. And so this is in the capital city, and he's just taking a nap. It's always amazing me, he get comfortable enough on top of the motorcycle to take a nap like that, but I say he's done that several times before. But this is one of the places that we work with. Of course, there's churches scattered. It's fairly small there in Vietnam, but they are growing. So this is one of the groups that we're working with. The man we're mainly working with is way back there in the back row on the left-hand side right there. He also has a son that works with him, but he's a hard worker. He actually makes 2 trips a year all the way from South Vietnam to the Hanoi in the north and visiting different Christian groups along the way. He does that by motorcycle. And so it takes him 2 or 3 weeks to make that trip, and he does that twice a year. And so he always traveling around different places, encouraging and teaching and people and so forth. This is his congregation at his home place. And so he also then arranges a seminar, invites many other people in for a 2 or 3 day seminar for us. Paul, of course, would teach the ladies, and I would have about the same number of men there. These classes are somewhat difficult to teach in a way because many of these people are not members of New Testament church, which means then they're from denominational groups with many different ideas and beliefs, and so sometimes you'll get some questions that you might not be used to taking sometimes, but hopefully we do a great deal of good at teaching these people. When I was there this last time, the man asked me to preach on premillennialism. Of course, that's a very popular doctrine. Most people in Christian circles believe in that doctrine. Most of those people did as well. And so I'm not sure how much good I did. My translator wasn't the best translator, and I think he believed in it as well. So I'm not sure how much good I did, but they did have my notes. It had been translated, and so they could at least study my notes after I left. So maybe that'd do a little good anyway. But we'll be doing about the same thing again this time. I'm not sure what we'll be teaching right just yet. But we did have a few books that have been translated into Vietnamese. And of course, it was given to the people there. We did have one baptism while we were there, which is always good as well. This is our last meal there in Vietnam. Now, we normally don't eat like this. This is truly a feast here. But the preacher's wife fixed all of this for us just before we left the next day. And that fish right there in the center is tilapia. That was pretty good fish there. This is the other group we're working with. This is actually a school of preaching. This is the first school of preaching in the history of the country. And so we're looking forward to the school training of many of the future leaders of the church here. So now, not all of those people would be actually students at the school, but many of them are. So hopefully this school would do great good for the work of the church there in Vietnam. Of course, we'll be spending about a week there at that school then. From there, then, we'll be going to the Philippines. The last time, we went to 3 different areas there in the Philippines. The first one was where the radio program be broadcast from. Of course, Philippines is always, most people live right next to the coast, so you get a lot of good pictures of the ocean and everything. But transportation is sometimes a little difficult. In this particular case, there was a typhoon that hit that area about 2 weeks before we got there. Now, the man we're working with does have a little small van, but the typhoon came with a lot of water and flooding, and so the water got into the van and messed it up, and he did not have a chance to get it fixed before we got there. So we had to ride by motorcycle and a sidecar. The first time Paula got into the sidecar, and like not got out of it, so she didn't do that anymore. So she sat on the back of the motorcycle the rest of the time then. But it worked out good. Of course, we didn't travel very far anyway. These are, again, the 2 men that work together there, and they use a lot of literature. They love the Voice of Truth. We actually send them 2 big old boxes of Voice of Truth and study books, and because they just simply distribute so much literature, they said 1 box is not enough for every 6 months there. So we actually send them 2 boxes in. And then from there, we went to Samar Island. This is where the second radio program being broadcast from. He arranges a seminar there. It's about 20 or 25 ladies, and of course, about the same number of men. Most all the people here are preachers as well. Of course, there's the man we're actually working with. And of course, we'll be doing the same thing again this time. And we're actually going to a completely different area first this time. So different place that we've never been to before. So we're kind of looking forward to seeing something new then. Then the last stop there in the Philippines was at Cebu City. This is where the Bear Valley School is located. Now this is not a full-time school. They meet 1 week a month, and many of the Bear Valley schools are part-time schools like that. They may meet 1 week a month or just on weekends or something like that. The purpose of this, of course, is to allow people who have jobs to keep their jobs and get the education at the same time. In other countries, jobs are difficult to find. And if you quit your job to go to a school for 2 years, more than likely you won't get the job back. And so they're going to be in a difficult situation. So it works out good many times to let the people keep their jobs and get the education at the same time. Obviously, it takes a lot longer to do it, but that's at least you do have the job when you get out of school there. We got there a day early, so Paula was able to the ladies' day on a Saturday. So this is a good group that she had on that particular day. And then the next week, then I taught for a week at the school. Now the school is actually located up on the side of a hill. The only way to get there is to climb all those steps. You see. Is actually about 160 steps. Might not sound like too many till you start climbing them. I kind of felt bad for myself because I had to stop and rest for a minute before I got to the top. But then I found out other people had to do the same thing, so I didn't feel hard so bad. But then to make it even worse, once you get up there, you had to climb to the second story. So it makes it even worse. But at least you could sit and rest for a few minutes before you had to make the last climb there. But there's my class that had a graduation last year. So again, this is a brand new group of people there. Then from the Zimbabwe, like I said, we just got back from Zimbabwe. I was there in Zimbabwe back in February. This is a man who speaks on the radio. This is his wife. But he does a lot of distribution of literature. He doesn't do the translation. We have two other men there that actually do the translation work. But he takes care of all the printing and the distribution of the literature. And the literature is really helping the church grow in this particular country. This is his particular congregation here. And the Sunday I was there, they do something a little bit different. Before the regular worship, they will have a short worship that is conducted by the young people. They would have one that would actually lead a song or two, one would say a prayer, and one would give a little short talk. And this is the one who actually gave the little short talk that day. Now, he did not speak in English, so I didn't understand what he was saying, but he seemed like he did a good job anyway. So I was impressed with what he did. But this is his church. Of course, he's right there in that blue suit right on the front row. On this particular day, he said they had about 160 people there, quite a bit bigger than it was the first time we were there about 3 or 4 years ago. And he said the main reason for the growth is the literature that we've been able to help them with. And they are so excited about finally getting some good Christian study books that they can use in their evangelism program there. This slide just simply shows us how blessed we really are. You know, in our situation, we take for granted that when you go in the kitchen, turn on the faucet, you get good, clean drinking water coming out of it. In so many places of the world, that is not true. This is not in a rural village in Africa. This is what we would call the suburbs of the capital city. And many of those homes there do not have clean running water in their homes. There's a well on church property, and many of the people come there to get the water and carry it back to their homes. It's almost always the women, as you see the woman here carrying a bucket of water on top of her head. You know how heavy a bucket of water is, so it seems like the women do all the hard work there. It's almost always the women or the young children that might go to get the water. And so again, it just shows how blessed we really are to have drinking water at our instant disposal here. For a week I was teaching in a school of preaching. There's two schools of preaching in this country. One is associated with Bear Valley. It's been going on about 10 years. This is the other school. This is the old school. It's been going on for 50 years. Been a great work and continuing to do a great work. Many of the preachers in the country have been educated at this school. Both of the schools use our literature extensively in their evangelism program. So I was glad to be at this school and teaching for a week. This is the director of the school. One day after class, he carried me out just outside of the city where there's a big overlook. You could actually overlook into the next country of Mozambique. And this is what the country looks like there. You get a little hard to see, but that's the checkpoint right there in the center. And so on the far side would be the country of Mozambique. It felt a little bit like maybe Moses might have felt, because seeing the overlooking to the next country, but of course you couldn't go there. I did not really want to go there anyway, but I did not have a visa, so I couldn't go in even if I'd wanted to. But you also see the long line of trucks beginning right there, snaking on towards there. Obviously, that's a long line of trucks. Zimbabwe is a landlocked country, and so many of their supplies would come in at the port, which was in Mozambique. And so all those trucks would cross the border, travel all the way across the country of Mozambique, pick up their supplies, and then bring them back to the country of Zimbabwe. So there's a lot of trucks going back and forth like that, bringing their supplies in. Again, this picture shows again just how blessed we really are. We've all heard about many of the countries in Africa, some of the civil wars and fighting that's going on. This man is actually from the country of the Congo, and you've heard about the problems in Congo for many years. He is actually a student at the school. About 2 hours away from the school is a refugee camp. That refugee camp, they said, would hold about 20,000 people. And the school has started some evangelism work in that refugee camp. Well, he's one of the people living in that refugee camp. He moved there about 10 years ago with his family. I think he said he had 2 children. And so basically, he's raised his family in a refugee camp. Now, I cannot even imagine trying to raise a family in a refugee camp. But again, it just shows how blessed we really are that we don't have to worry about that type of thing here. I asked him about the possibility of him ever going back home, and he simply shook his head because the violence is continuing just about as much as it was when he left. This is my particular class. These are new students as well. They've only been there like 2 or 3 weeks when I was there, but they were very good students. I was very much surprised at them being new students at the school, and yet their knowledge and grounding that they have in the Bible. So the future looks bright for them at least. The last week I was there, then I taught a series of lessons on the conversions in Acts, and had 6 baptisms altogether, 3 the first day, 1 the second day, and 2 the third day. And so these are the 3 people baptized on the first day. You see, they're not young, especially one of them, an older woman with a cane there. So certainly she is not a young woman there. But they were all baptized at this little portable baptistry. That's one of the young men that was baptized the last day. So it worked good there. And then we also like I said, we just got back from Tanzania. I was teaching 2 weeks in a school of preaching, and so this is my class here. I want to mention just that one man there. He's the oldest person that I've ever had in any of my classes. He turned 75 one of those weeks that I was there. And so that's always amazing to me. He wasn't the best student, but he certainly was the oldest. And he's a good example of someone who's not retiring from the Lord's work. He was a school teacher during his life. When he retired from school teaching, he started preaching, and he still wanted to study and improve his knowledge. And so, like I said, he's just a great example of someone that even though you might be getting older, you don't retire from the Lord's work. And so hopefully he'll have several more years that he can preach the gospel there. We also there's a missionary couple that lives there in Tanzania from America. They live about 2 hours away from the school, and so we spent the weekend with them. They're Noah and Jessica Stafford. Noah, his parents were longtime missionaries to Africa and Tanzania, so he spent some years as a child living there in Tanzania. His wife spent some years as a teenager in Russia, and so they were both of them raised, of course, have some missionary blood in them, so to speak. And so they've been there about 3 years, and they're doing a good work there. But it was good to spend the weekend with them. On a Saturday, Paula went with some of the ladies to a nursing home. And if you might want to talk to her to see about the conditions of the nursing home there, I don't have any pictures of the nursing home, but she simply described the conditions as atrocious. Again, it shows how blessed we are. Sometimes we complain about some of the nursing homes here and the care is being given, but compared to that place, it's all like 5-star hotels, I'm sure. And so we really have very little to complain about. But after they went to the nursing home, of course, Paula taught a little while to some of the ladies, a little ladies class there. And then from there, we went to Kenya, which is a neighboring country north. We went there to Kenya about 3 years ago. We simply drove by car from Tanzania on up into Kenya. And on the way then, we got a good picture of Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm sure many of you have heard of that mountain. This is one of the tallest mountains in the world. Many people will come to this area to climb the mountain, do some hiking and so forth. But one thing I'm pretty sure about, you will never read in my newsletter that I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. That is not on my bucket list, so to speak, there. But this is how they keep the side of the road mowed down very clean. Here we have mowers come along to do it. Well, the cow is their mowers. You'll see a lot of cows and goats just stake to the side of the road, and they keep the side of the road very clean and neat there. But this is the first congregation on Sunday we worship with. We were there at this same congregation about 3 years ago, and we just remember it very distinctly because we remember the chicken coop that was about as close as a wall to us there. And of course, we remember the smell as well. Only about 15 to 20 minutes later, you don't notice the smell. You kind of get used to it. But they are building a new building. This is the building. They're in the process of building, and hopefully before long they'll get it finished. They really need a different place to meet there. We will not see many wild animals. Sometimes we will see a monkey. There's a monkey there we have to see this time. We did happen to catch on the side of the road a small herd of zebras and antelopes there in the field. So sometimes you see a few animals, but most of the time you don't see none unless you go on safari. But this is way up in the mountainous area on the western side of the country. Again, the people there tilling the land by hand in order to get real crops for them. This is a brand new congregation. 3 years ago when we were there was no congregation, no building or anything. Now there's a congregation with a nice building there. He said about 30 people or so are meeting there on a regular basis. He also has built this medical clinic. The building itself is finished, but there's nothing in it. There's an organization in Indiana that's going to ship all the medical equipment that he'll be needing, and we're going to be, about a couple of weeks, we're going to make the trip to Indiana to deliver a bottle of books up there for them. He also has a Bible school there, and so the books will be used kind of a library for his Bible school in that area. This is the area where we're looking at. The homes is scattered. Now, if you were there, you would think nobody would live up in that area. There's almost no roads. Everybody walks wherever they go. There's really no medical equipment there, no services. Now, back in the city, down a good distance away, of course, you're walking. That's very hard for them to get down to the town. Of course, there would be some there, but this is a great need for in that area. It's also be a great source of evangelism, I'm sure, for the church there. This is my class there, and of course I taught them for a week, and then this is Paula's class on the ladies. Now they only came in the afternoons. They simply said, we don't have time to come all day. Like I said before, it seemed like the women do all the hard work there in Africa, and so with the field work and the housework and everything, they just couldn't hardly take off all day long, but they did come in the afternoons for a few classes there. But that finishes up my presentation. I think the time is about gone as well. We might have just a minute or two. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Okay. We do have on the table in the back some copies of the Voice of Truth as well as copies of our newsletter. So feel free to pick up a copy of both on your way out. Thank you very much.